Welcome to Progressive Alternative with Victor Monjares. I'm Victor Monjares. And basically, today, unfortunately, the big news basically of this day, Wednesday, April 8th. I might have my date wrong, especially from what I could tell with this handy dandy Apple Watch. But it's April 8th, 2020. I was about to do a video about basically fantasy appointments. We're calling that as a something about whether which presidential candidate needs to hopefully fulfill a better cabinet should they be elected president for both Biden and Bernie. But unfortunately, today's news of Bernie Sanders basically dropping out of the race really has me bummed out. Of course, I'm still basically gonna hang up everything that I have of him around here, as I have all my gears and I got several of his books, and especially one from his former campaign manager, Mr. Jeff Weaver there. And so now it's always to the point of knowing this is the movement and this is something more bigger than just the one man himself. I still have the bumper sticker on the car that I drive. And basically, it's saddening for me. I got up early in the morning. I think it was like, to be fair, it's like 8 a.m. Your interpretation of being up at early in the morning. I guess it's different for others, especially for those on the East Coast. But I think for the West Coast, it's a different vibe. But obviously, it was not exactly good news for me to wake up to, and I was really hoping he was going to take it to the convention. Now, to be fair, he did actually state that his name is still going to be on the remaining states that it's going to vote. So any of you out there, DC, Indiana, New Jersey, other states that definitely still have their primaries still coming up, please go out there and vote for Bernie. If you really, again, from what my philosophy is, in the primaries, you vote for what you believe in, and then, like in the generals, you vote for what you need. And unfortunately, I guess with Biden, it's like, oh yeah, it's just this old white dude. Unfortunately, we're not going to have the next thing. It's 2020. It came down to that. Although, to be fair, it's all going to be about who his vice president is going to be. And what this is basically about is, I guess in some essence, this is my demands. Although for me, my vote in California doesn't really matter because unfortunately by the Electoral College, California is basically already decidedly blue, and that's a cool thing. Although, yeah, there's always room for improvements, making sure, because our voter registration numbers is basically a lot more no party preferences basically rule the state, though they do lean on the Democratic side because here in the Republican side, yeah, they're not really that very good. Yeah, don't like to keep denying climate change is happening, and you're not exactly going to get a lot of people supporting you. So basically, it's just all about getting out there. And basically, my demands for Biden is that, yes, please choose a vice president that is progressive, that's from the Midwest. This is basically for me, preferably. It could be Midwest or Southeastern, since a lot of those states, like Georgia and Florida, and maybe Texas, even though they're actually Midwest, though a lot of people like to say they're Southeast. For some reason, Dallas Cowboys play in the NFC East. I don't know why I have to bring that up, but to be fair, they are 3 hours ahead of us for some odd reason. Anyway, so if you pick somebody from there, now it can't just be anybody. Mainly Stacey Abrams. That's an amazing personality. She's been mentioned a lot on my most beautiful political figures, on basically influencers that is quite important to gather. She ran an amazing race down in Georgia to run for that governor's seat. Unfortunately, kind of taken away. She should be the governor, but the dude that basically is the Secretary of State didn't, who has clearly has conflict of interest, clearly didn't seem to care about being fair and just. Anyway, but she was still able to turn out the vote, including people that never participated in the political process. Bernie actually helped her out in that 2018 race. I trust her. A lot of progressives trust her. Now, is it kind of difficult to win over the Democratic Socialists? Yes, because unfortunately, some of their policies is not totally out there to say that she supports Medicare for all or to basically get much more progressive issues forward. And to be fair, she does, she is running in a race that unfortunately is not totally liberal like we are here in California. So you're not going to be perfect, but it is a good compromise because, one, she's a black woman. You got to get those black women to get out there and vote because they believe in that. They want to get as close to the president of, hey, we've helped you out so much to elect basically Doug Jones in Alabama, the United States Senator, over a goddamn rapist, child rapist, by the way, Roy Moore, even though it was still close. It was still a close race, but they were so fundamental in basically getting that forefront. Stacey Abrams, just my goodness, she is a well recognized name and something quite monumental. Because apparently Biden actually said, like about a couple weeks ago to a dinner in Georgia, that, oh, I'm probably not going to be in this job for a long time. Probably going to be dropping out, or at least dropping, or at least basically resigning because, his mental capacity is not exactly there. Anyway, but if you have someone like Stacey Abrams, oh my goodness, she gets to be in your ballot, including in those two United States Senate seats in Georgia. There's a reason why she's not running for either of those two seats. One, that's basically by normal cycle, and two, and he's David Perdue. He's basically not very well liked, apparently. And two is the special congressional seat. And Kelly Loeffler, who was appointed by Kemp, Governor Kemp, who shouldn't be governor, but we'll discuss that another time, maybe a little bit. She was involved in that scandal about getting all those stocks and to her benefit when the virus crisis that we're in now was kind of benefiting her long term. Yeah, she's not going to be well liked, and there's the enthusiasm there up there in Georgia. And so when you have that, and of course I know that is only going to affect Georgia, but it's also going to affect Florida. It's also going to affect basically all those southeastern states, especially Mississippi, who were with Mike Espy running again. It doesn't make every race. Unfortunately, Arkansas is not involved in that because for some reason, the one dude, Josh Maloney, decided to drop out. He was the only one to take on Tom Cotton. Yeah, he was going to lose, but at least put up a fight. Put up something. It's like, you couldn't do anything. Really, you're going to be intimidated by a lot of his negative tactics that Cotton's super PAC had on you. Anyway, that's basically for the forefront. Nina Turner would be a wonderful candidate to have, a progressive. I'll definitely say the one closest to Bernie. Strong black woman from Ohio who's been quite the figurine to basically bridge that gap, both of youngsters and the older generation, and to really build the coalition there to be as much enthusiasm as you can. And you at least have a fast track to having Bernie becoming someone of a more influential in the future. Should Biden get elected. That's what you need to take on Trump against him because he's already got all that money. He's already got all that support from the Republican side. I guess he's already clinched it too from last time I've heard the nomination basically there. Of course, they all want to be supporting because, oh yeah, we're going to trade in our souls because, we won for the first time and we didn't let a woman be in charge and we didn't we're finally taking it back from a black guy. To be fair, it's like he didn't do everything right for President Obama. And it's like, I guess now this is going to be sometime like just before this weekend comes along, but Obama's going to endorse Biden. And yeah, of course. Yeah. It's kind of unfortunate, but, whatever. Again, my next demands is basically do not have Kamala Harris as vice president, by the way. Don't. I get that she's so hip and look at me dance moves and I can interrogate people with my questions. It's like, but what happens when shit basically goes on her? Can she defend herself? No, she can't. She starts calling out people as just unaccredited or basically hurtful things. Or no, not really hurtful, but basically just she doesn't really stand up for herself pretty much whenever adversity starts to hit her. She's not. At least in this stage of her life. I respect her for everything else, for everything that she's dealt with previously in her life. And, I like her as my United States Senator. I don't love her as my United States Senator. She's not always my first choice. And I would rather avoid having another special election for that. Anyway, and of course, coastal elite, oh, yeah, you liberals. It's like that's not really helping the Midwestern vote. Don't also get Gretchen Whitmer either. She needs a little bit more time as being governor of Michigan. Otherwise, we have another special election there, and we kind of need to really have a tempo there to build up the Democratic Party there, especially up in the Midwest. It's like, oh yeah, she was only there just to serve, just to get a high-profile job to get in the federal seats, and he never really cared about us. She's doing okay. She's doing very good work. Now, what you really want is probably Dianne Neeson, who's the Attorney General of Michigan. My goodness, she has been magnificent, fighting basically crime and holding those with power accountable for their actions, priest molestations, pharmaceutical price gouging, and just and of course senior abuse basically there. It's like, my goodness. Oh, puppy mills, by the way, like abuse of animals there, animal abuse there. And just really, and of course being front and center about all the scams that's basically happening. There's Zoom calls, they're being hijacked, and if that's really the woman from Michigan you need, that's really the woman in Michigan, not Gretchen, but Diana Neeson. Though of course, she needs a little bit more time on the job just to build up a little bit more experience. But in any way, that's a little bit of fantasy appointments there. I would have really wanted. But basically, also Biden, please get rid of the super PACs. You don't need the super PACs anymore. That's it. You're done with those. You don't need that. You're now presumably the Democratic nomination frontrunner now. There's no one else. You don't need the super PACs. You were supposed to not use super PACs, by the way, in the beginning of this whole thing, when everyone made those promises of not doing super PACs or even PACs at all. So get rid of those. Please ban fracking. We don't need hydraulic gasoline basically contaminating our waters, especially down in Michigan, especially in Flint, Michigan, if you really want to encourage those voters out there to say, yeah, they're really going to do something and not be influenced by fossil fuel companies. And basically, please support Medicare for all. Of course, please support Medicare for all. There was that interview about a month ago where you said, "Oh, I'll veto it." Yeah, sure, you're gonna veto the thing that's very popular, just because it's just you winning and not the idea. That's one thing that Bernie basically has been doing very well as, promoting the idea. Maybe not promoting himself, which kind of would have been the best thing to do, but then again, he looks out for what's best for everybody, not just himself. But yeah, that's basically what you need to do. Also, Green New Deal. Please support that, or at least work up some kind of a way to get there, because you kind of need to beat all these things that will just have the most chaotic climate disasters in the next 10 years, basically. And so it's common sense, and people, again, also support that. A majority of people support that, especially independent voters, or as I like to call them, no party preference. And that's basically what I have in store. Also, please also apologize for all those to all those women that you basically. I know you did one at the beginning of your campaign on Biden. It's not like he's ever going to watch this, but just in the rarity that he does, it's like, please apologize to them. I know that you've already done it, but you got to keep doing it. You gotta look like you're way better than Trump, who never apologizes, who never actually gives a shit about those women, because all he thinks is that, oh yeah, I'm white, I'm rich, I can do whatever I want. Biden, you need to step it up, apologize to those women. I get it, it was back then, but this is now, as reality likes to always tell me. And so, to my supporters, or at least to my friends who are also Bernie Sanders supporters, that are thinking, oh, yeah, we don't want to support him. You know what? If you live in California, Wyoming, any other state that's basically dominantly Republican or Democratic, you can just support or vote whoever you want in that presidential race ballot there. Because unfortunately, due to the Electoral College, our votes don't really matter. Now, but please support the candidates down the ballot, and I'll get to that a little bit. But first, to the swing state, those who live in the swing states, such as Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Texas, even Texas is kind of getting in there. A little bit of Tennessee, probably not yet, unfortunately. Maybe Kentucky. Although there is that enthusiasm for that United States Senate seat. I'll get back to that. And let's see, also Maine, and a good amount of, oh yeah, definitely New Hampshire. You definitely want to really get that encouragement up there. New Mexico to a good extent. Just keep it up right there. Nevada, even though it's turning to be a lot more democratic, you still want to keep saving good face there. And every other state that's basically bound to determine to swing basically the Electoral College. North Carolina, that's also another state that's quite pivotal. Virginia, to a good extent as well, even though it's now also starting to become much more democratic. Those states, if you're in those states, in those swing states that really count for the Electoral College, just like it did back then and 4 years ago, you got to vote for Biden. Basically, because you really do care about beating Trump, and Bernie's going to go out there. Remember, it's for that moment. Yeah, they'll say, oh yeah, we didn't have to turn any of you guys out. Yeah, you know what? They're going to tell us that. They're going to try to ignore, oh, and if they lose, they're going to blame it all on us. It's like, it's basically, it's going to be annoying, but you got to do it for everybody else. You got to do it because it's a movement. You got to do it to basically help all of our lives out there. Because your vote, at least you get to say, hey, at least my vote is much more important than California. I don't know if there's a silver lining on that. So it's quite important. Now, I know, I get it. It's still going to be hard to convince you right now, or at least to the extent that whether there'll be a compelling argument that any of you will, one, actually watch this video, or actually, and two, actually reason that, oh yeah, all right, I'll swallow that pill. But at least right now, some of you are still actually having primaries out there, not only for the presidency, but also for down the ballot races. This is where back to where we talk about our United States Senate, whether it be Biden or Trump, definitely those United States Senate seats, should you have a competitive seat, maybe even a dominantly Republican or Democratic seat. Those are important as well, because they are the ones that basically either reject or approve the president's appointments. Basically, the Supreme Court justice, the basically appointments to the Secretary of Labor, Secretary of State, Department of Agriculture, Department of Environmental Protections. Definitely those are going to be quite important to really get through. You want to make that noise. Kind of like for the United States Senate, Charles Booker in Kentucky. Keep supporting him, because he can definitely be a voice that quite elevates and always questions that whether it be Biden or Trump, they're not a Pacific appointment nominations. Like definitely, if they're involved more involved with Wall Street, if those appointments are actual experts at all in their field and they're not influenced by big corporations that want to just take advantage of. Oh yeah, now we're back to normal, yay! And it's like yeah, but then they're gonna start going back to the way things basically were even before Trump and even before Obama, basically in that aspects. Like again, they're important. Kimberly Graham in Iowa, she's running for that United States Senate seat down there, who's much more progressive, just like Bernie, and Betsy Sweet from Maine. She's quite a local uh, feminist who really wants to make that difference for to defeat Citizens United. And we got so many other races, especially for the governor's seat. Andrew Volvinsky from New Hampshire. Again, that's also a governor's seat that's basically quite important to see. Oh, yeah, what are we going to set the rules for our next elections, especially the primaries? Can we move it to a Tuesday, out of Tuesday, and maybe to a weekend, please? Uh, so far, and it's like it's very quite compelling. Um, so far, we also have David Zuckerman. Apparently, fun fact, even though Bernie's actually basically in a pretty dominant state because he was from the state of Vermont, they actually still have a Republican governor there. Now, he's actually been quite received okay there. He's like he hasn't exactly gone total boop boop bananas and racist, but he's been kind of just stalling, especially vetoing some minimum wage increases, which is not really helpful. But David Zuckerman, or at least from what I can best describe as really the best candidate out there for the governor's race in Vermont. It'll be quite foretelling how many candidates he helps out down the ballot. It's it definitely I've been of course I in this whole quarantine time, self quarantine. Sometimes I go out basically to just get all those groceries and anything else just to clear my head. Of course, staying inside is quite foretaking, but at least a lot of chores keep me busy. But yeah, I've basically been researching a lot of congressional governors and a good amount of maybe just a couple of mayor races. That might come up to my attention much more later, but right now I do have just basically more focus on the United States Senate and congressional seats and some governor seats, especially in Montana. Mike Connolly running in that governor seat. He's basically the lieutenant governor that served under Steve Bullock, who's now running for the United States Senate seat. At first, I really wanted Wilmot Collins in that because he was a lot more energetic and he at least was a lot more favorable. And now Steve Bullock's going to run in. I guess. And of course, he's not the best guy there, I think, in my ideology, but he's the best guy, obviously, for Montana. And that's all right. Everybody, by the way, there was actually like five candidates running in that United States Senate seat in Montana. And then Steve Bullock goes in and is like, all right, we're done. No one's going to vote for us. Barely anybody's going to vote for us. So they basically dropped out. Yeah. There was like four of them. I think one of them is still running, though he might have to look at the vision in the glass or the writing on the wall. That's it. I always get those words mixed up, mirrors and walls. And so, and especially, and there's also that United States Senate seat up for grabs in the state of South Carolina. Jamie Harrison, basically the best dude to basically take on Lindsey Graham, that very, very annoyingly sounding dude who basically doesn't really give a shit about our country, who once said that impeachment is about cleansing the office of the presidency. And he didn't support that this past time around, huh? Oh, yeah, because of course the dude was a Democrat back then. Ah. And so a lot of a lot of House of Representative seats in the state of Virginia are still kind of just still trying to figure out what they want to do and what they want to basically produce any candidates out there. It's like it kind of helps too. Pennsylvania has those still newly drawn lines there, and that's something to look forward to. I don't have anything. I haven't gotten to Pennsylvania, but I will pretty soon. I actually was just up doing Wisconsin a lot. Although I did get to West Virginia, please get Paula Jean Swearingen. That way, she really loves Bernie Sanders, and she actually really connects pretty well with the people there, more better than Richie Robb and Richard O'Haga. My God, Richard O'Haga has just fallen off the goddamn cliff. Can't really do any much forums. I know in this time right now, but even before this whole crisis came along, he wasn't really doing that much town halls or doing that much interconnecting with people. Wouldn't really adapt much of his policies to, adapt to the policies of Bernie Sanders. From what I heard, basically from Paula and some other people that do, basically live in West Virginia, and so it's quite stagnant on that forefront there. You have your attorney general races again. Attorney general races are quite important because they uphold the laws or try to challenge the federal government on a specific law there. Whether and of course that's all on your taxpayer dollars for you states out there, and definitely Kentucky. I also remember also in the state of Indiana, many people actually wanted Pete Buttigieg to actually run for the governor of Indiana. Though, although I did see this one other dude, he's a little bit much more encouraging. I hope to see his name in there pretty soon. But I will, for now, just mention Mark Kelly running in the state of Arizona for that seat that John McCain passed away from, and Martha McSally was appointed by Doug Ducey, who's the Republican governor, who's a Republican. And basically, Martha McSally is not pretty pleased and is not very patient, and she's not the most civic person to be around, apparently. Duh. And just very not helpful to her constituents out there. And of course, Ohio, they only have congressional seats, and unfortunately, they're basically all gerrymandered. Still, they can't change those allocations until the United States Census. By the way, complete your United States Census out there, everybody. Pretty easy to do, even though I have a lot of family members and I have to try to figure out their birth dates and what ethnicities. Of course, all Mexican. Mexican American. Yeah. I'll probably bet there are going to be some doofus down in the comments. Leave a comment below. Probably say, go back to Mexico. It's like, I was born in Sacramento, you dumbass. Let's see. Indiana, who's governor? Woody Myers. Yeah, that's, Woody Myers is pretty getting a little bit better with his charismatic attitude. Now that election there does for the primaries there does not hold until June 2nd. So if Pete Buttigieg might actually consider doing that because their filing date is like maybe 2 months beforehand. Pete, I guess he's the good kind of he's already been the mayor there. I don't really see him really doing much in a cabinet position. People keep saying, "Oh yeah, make him Secretary of Defense." Nah. Secretary of State. Nah. Again, I get that he has that military experience, but the type of military experience he brought out of it isn't really the best thing out there for the federal wise. Not federal wise. Yeah, he could be Department of Veterans Affairs. That would be helpful. It'll be a good line to basically get the forefront of, oh yeah, they need more funding. They basically support your troops both basically when they're at war and then when they come back home. Please do. Actually, where I live in Placer County, when you go across the county limit lines, they always say, honor your veterans. Unlike a certain United States congressional representative who thinks he supports them, he really doesn't. It's McClintock. I'm talking about McClintock. Fuck that guy. And basically so many other races out there. Even in my state, it's basically a bunch of congressional seats that basically were up for grabs out there. Again, we have like 53 of them. And some of those races, when we already had primaries for them, haven't been finalized yet. So we don't know whether we have a Democrat running in them. Like Chris Pusbar. I don't think I said her name right. But yeah, she's running for that 8th Congressional. in a basically toss-up now because the incumbent basically decided to retire. And so, yeah, use your willpower. This isn't the end of the fight. It's a movement, and we have to keep on doing that in order to help out just basically the vision of all of that. You have to think about everything else in there. Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, Oregon, Montana, Wyoming. I know Wyoming's going to be very difficult, and they're basically all Republicans down there, but you got to build up from somewhere because you can't give up. Alaska. I'll have to get to Alaska pretty soon there because their elections kind of have to be pushed back, like Hawaii's. Utah, Idaho, Washington. My goodness, that's they still have all congressional seats, governor seat. By the way, State of Washington, Jay Inslee basically is running for a third term. Third, third. Apparently, in the state of Washington, they don't have any term limits for their state offices seats. Probably wouldn't want to revisit that. So that way, you kind of don't want them to stay in power forever. You want to encourage a lot more enthusiasm for the future and just encourage. It builds up a sense of passing the torch down. It's helpful. And you want to encourage people that are not always that are from different demographics and definitely to combat that whole, oh yeah, we don't support women. Well, no, we only support women if they agree with mostly our ideas of just accepting corporate money or being pretty shy about anything. Anyway, enough about me. Oh yeah, it's just state of Florida, Colorado. I'm still doing a lot more of these states, and hopefully I get a little bit more. Maybe next week I'll have much more of who to say. Ooh, United States Senate seat in Massachusetts. That's a very interesting one, basically between Ed Markey versus Joseph Kennedy III. There's also a dude named Washington Blask, but he doesn't really have a website or anything going around for him at the moment. And in Texas, too. Definitely, again, one of those possible swing states if you can get that enthusiasm up. Between the United States Senator race, many people wanted Beto O'Rourke, though I did say in some essence, now that he ran for president, now he really showed his liberal side. He probably can't run for that United States Senate seat anymore. He'll probably have to take a job with the federal government now. Yeah, it's we love Beto. It's pretty interesting. They also have runoffs in the July 20th. For those that didn't totally win their primaries, then they have like the top two vote getters, and then they meet there. For those United States Senate, Roy West or Mary Jennings Hager. Roy West is basically the best one from what I'm hearing, and a little bit much more encouraging. If you want a more African American voice, and he's a little bit more tentative to the progressive movement. Mary Jennings is kind of really not because just oh yeah, you're from Emily's List. Emily's List loves you because you're not exactly basically much more exclusive to those that want to fight for more reproductive health care outside of whoever could afford it. That's always something that I don't really feel comfortable with Emily's List. Though I do love that they're trying to promote much more women to be elected in seats. But though I'm more of an Emerge person, which Emerge is basically a organization that trains women to run for office and gives them the best advice, no matter who they are, basically. I believe Kimberly Ellis. Kimberly Ellis basically founded that group and really has been quite the influential leader. Tried to become the California State Democratic Party chair. Unfortunately, lost both two times there, and got to meet her. My goodness, she's a martitiously marvelous, beautiful woman. Really is quite charismatic. Whew. And so, yeah, that's basically what I have to say to everyone out there. One, please stay safe and basically do your best to remain healthy. Unfortunately, Wisconsin did not get the benefit of the doubt for that vote by mail procedure. And, it's like, unfortunately, that's the fault with having a more dominant conservative state Supreme Court that doesn't really care. about protecting the well-being of people, and a GOP dominant, or yeah, GOP dominant state legislative that, again, has only relies from their words of President Trump, who says, "Oh, if you do all vote by mail, then no Republican will ever win, never be elected again." Yeah, you're doing it just because of party and not the country. Maybe if you just said election security, maybe that would have flied by. But again, it's a paper ballot. You can't manipulate paper ballots. Take that, Russian government. Russian government, not the people there. I hope you're all cool out there. And so, this has been Progressive Alternative with Victor Monjaras. I'm Victor Monjaras, and you all have a blessed weekend. I'm getting there, but it's never perfect, but it's improving, and that's the best we can all hope for in this whole entire life point. Take care now.